Well, day 3 of this edition of the IPL sees another couple of teams in action for the first time. The opening game for the Gujarat Lions and the Kolkata Knight Riders. One team that started their IPL campaign last year and finished top of the league phase, and one team that's always started, at least the last 4 or 5 years, as favourites. To build up here on ESPNcricinfo Match Day 22 that game, Ajit Agarkar, Brad Hogg, we're going to get their thoughts in just a minute. And they're going to be against the clock, as you know the format by now. I hope you do. Have a look at our first match day match point as we take you through the very scenic Saurashtra Cricket Association stadium at Rajkot. It's a venue with a difference. And of course, that is not a Photoshop Lords. It is indeed the Rajkot ground. I'll set the discussion up because we are talking about pace versus spin at Rajkot. It's been a batting-friendly venue. If you look at Indian domestic cricket over the years, Ajit Agarkar's played a few games that he'd like to forget at that ground. But 23 wickets for pacers at an average of 38, economy of 8. Spinners like bowling at Rajkot. We know that Gujarat Lions will be without their frontline spinner in Jadeja, but an economy of 7.29, average of 26. So, as I come to Ajit Agarkar now, the question is, how is Rajkot, which made its IPL debut last year, different from, say, other grounds in the IPL, and why would spinners be more excited to play there? Your 45 seconds, sir, start now.
I wouldn't say they would be excited to play there. It's still a good batting pitch, but I think anything pace off the ball seems to. It's a decent sized ground. So when not like some of the other grounds, a bit smaller, misses land in the crowd. So the spinners have a chance when you have a slightly bigger boundary. When a batsman misses, you still have a chance. And the pitch usually is so flat that the seamers come onto the bat so well. It's hard to stop runs with a quick outfield, and that's why spinners played a part. As soon as you take pace of the ball, the batsmen have to work that much harder. I mean, Hoggy probably would tell you a little bit later, but and that's why it's made their work a little bit harder. Still a really good pitch to bat on, and usually a high-scoring venue.
And he aces it as far as time goes, does Ajit Agarkar. Well, Brad Hogg, moving to you. We know Gujarat are without their frontline spinner in Jadeja. You've seen a bit of Jakati and the Chinaman Shival Kaushik. Do they have the spinners, though, that can actually make an impact at a ground which is supposedly favourable to them? 45 seconds for you. Start now.
I think these two spinners do have the ability to put the pressure on Kolkata. It's a spin-friendly wicket up there. We've seen the stats that show that spinners do well in Rajkot. So if we look at the stats, I think these two spinners can really be a trump card. They turn the ball away from the right-hander, or the left-hand Chinaman brings it in, but he's got a wrong one. And predominantly the Kolkata batting lineup is right-handed, so it's turning away. And Jakarta has really got it on Yusuf Pathan. Now Pathan is a very strong batsman against spinners. Jakarta could disrupt Pathan tonight, and that could be the key of the match.
I love how you do your homework. You give us the exact contest to look out for, and it's impeccably done in time. So there you've got it as far as the spinners go. Let's see how they do go when the Gujarat Lions actually take on the Kolkata Knight Riders. Let's move on now to our second match day match point, and we are going to talk about a battle that could start with up top. Spin to tame the Gujarat Lions, the openers at least. That's our match day match point number 2. It'll be interesting to see who the openers actually are. They've of course got McCullum and Dwayne Smith, who was successful last season. So was Aaron Finch, who played in the top order, and they've got Jason Roy now to add to that arsenal. Some numbers for you as we set the discussion up as to how McCullum and Dwayne Smith, who we think would be the first choice openers, go against spin. It's not very good reading, gentlemen. 8 as an average for McCullum, 13 as an average for Dwayne Smith. Strike rate's not as high for the reputation that these two men have in the shortest format, and they've gotten out a fair number of times to the spinners. So as I take it to Ajit Agarkar, who is of course I think bowled enough to Brendan McCullum and Dwayne Smith in his time, just what's the issue that two fairly strong batsmen have against spin? 45 seconds, off you go.
Well, I mean, the issue is they don't play in India firstly. I mean, they obviously play a lot more pace where they come from than spin. I mean, numbers can sometimes be a little bit misleading. I think McCullum, I'm sure, has hit a few spinners, in the IPL for a few runs, as has Dwayne Smith. But clearly, they're better against pace when the ball comes onto the bat. And Kolkata have 3 guys in Kuldeep, Chawla and Narine, who are not just spinners but have that X factor about them. Kuldeep with the Chinaman and the googly, Narine again almost a mystery spinner, and Chawla, leggy, which is difficult to get away. So they found it difficult, and Kolkata is probably the worst team for them to start off the tournament if you want anyone to bowl to them.
And also McCullum's averaging 22 at the moment, or last year in the IPL, so there's a lot of pressure on him. But you've also got Jason Roy in the background, and they can't pick Jason Roy because his averages against spin aren't that flash either.
So that's the conundrum they find themselves in. Overseas openers and not necessarily as good as spin. But one man who, for me personally, I thought that surprised me when I saw his numbers and how good they were against spin. That's Aaron Finch. If we take a look at Aaron Finch's numbers, who could also be an option for Suresh Raina should he choose to open with Finch, given the opposition. Left arm spin, leg spin, off spin. There are variations in the average, but it's still all very acceptable in T20 cricket. Good strike rate too. Gets out often to spinners, but in the context of T20 games, it could very well be hitting out. Rajkot, you've played enough with and against Aaron Finch, I'm sure. He's not a bad player to spin. I actually thought those numbers might not be as flattering. 45 seconds for you to talk about the Finch factor against a good spin lineup.
Look, Aaron Finch is definitely a dominator against spin. Especially in Australia, bowling against Aaron Finch is difficult because you know that if you get it slightly wrong, you over pitch, he's going to hit it for 6. But this year, Aaron hasn't really done well over in Asia. I think he's averaging 19.43 at a strike rate of 125, and that doesn't match those numbers there. So that's in Asia, but in Australia, he's still dominating spin there, where he's got a strike rate of 158 with an average of 51 against spinners that turn the ball away from him. So that's something that's Kolkata are going to look at tonight. The form against spinners is spinning it away. Watch for Chawla bowling it wide of Aaron Finch, making him reach it and play across the line tonight.
You know what you look out for. Rajkot always gives you something to watch out for specifically. So you've had it. That's the battle as far as the top order of Gujarat go against the very established and exciting spin trio for the Night Riders. If you add Yusuf Pathan, you can call it a spin quartet. Right, let's move on to match day match point number 3 now, and 2 players that will be missing. How important would this be? It's their middle order woes. They're not the 2 players on screen. We'll show you which ones they are right now. We are essentially talking about the absence of Ravindra Jadeja and Dwayne Bravo. That does affect the middle order for the Gujarat Lions. We'll just take a look at the numbers for the 2 gentlemen that I spoke of. These are IPL veterans, if you must call them that, Bravo and Jadeja. Over 100 games for both of them. They're essentially, if I may be respectfully saying, bowling all-rounders, or do more of a job with the ball. Averages of 20, strike rate in 120. But Ajit, if I come to you now and just tell you that these 2 are missing in your middle order, I'm not too sure about the reserve force that Gujarat have. How much would they miss them as batsmen as they start against the Night Riders? Your 45 seconds start now.
I mean, you can't really replace that sort of quality. I mean, you look at the roles that they do for Gujarat. Jadeja bowls in the middle of the innings and finishes the innings with the bat, and obviously is a terrific fielder. Bravo bowls at the death throughout the T20 format for them, and does the job really well, and then comes out and tonks the few runs that they require. I mean, experience, played for winning teams before for Chennai, and top quality internationals. So it is always going to be hard to replace them. Someone else gets an opportunity because of them missing out, but these 2 will be, these 2 are probably the guys around who this team revolves, and they will be a big miss early part of the tournament.
Okay. Now you might think, okay, they don't have Bravo, they don't have Jadeja, but they've got James Faulkner. And when Indian fans think of James Faulkner, they can only remember him tonking Ishant Sharma, one of India's premier test bowlers in Mohali in an ODI game. But James Faulkner since Jan 2016, Rajkot, an average of just 14 and a strike rate of 122. We've seen the best of Faulkner, and I think most international bowlers would fear that. But is he just not in those situations often enough? What do you make of how James Faulkner's batting career has sort of gone in the last 1 or 2 years? Your time starts now.
I think it's just James Faulkner, both batting and bowling, he's dropped off the radar a little bit. If you look at his performances in Australia, they're not flash at the moment either. So he's really under pressure at the moment for spots, not only with the Australian team, but also for IPL contracts coming up next year. With Bravo coming out of the team, going to be injured, might be back halfway through this tournament, James Faulkner has got to make it hard for Bravo to get back into this team. This is an opportunity for James. He's got to do it. It's a make or break for him. But I think that one thing that James hasn't been able to do is adapt. Players have worked out the way that he bowls, works out the way that he's bat. Now he's got to come up to plans to counteract that now.
Good enough though to do it?
He's still good enough to do it.
All right. Well, let's see how James Faulkner goes in his first game. First game always sets the tone for a lot of players who might be under a bit of pressure. So let's see how Faulkner goes in the absence of Dwayne Bravo.
Sorry, Raina, but you've always got to back an Australian in. Come on.
Yeah, well, it was a silly question to ask him.
That's probably the next question for Ajit.
I was hoping he says no, but okay. Let's move on to one of the most tasteful matchups, individual battles that we might see when GL take on KKR, and that's the trump cards for both, if you ask me. Suresh Raina against, I'm not sure he's that unhappy about playing in the IPL, but Sunil Narayan's there, and he is pretty much the Sunil Narayan in full swing now. Last year, all the controversy surrounding his action came back, did well. So let's bring out the numbers first. Raina v Sunil Narayan is actually an extraordinary mini battle. He's never got him out, the West Indian off spinner, and Raina strikes at 151 in the IPL against him. So Brad Hogg, as I come to you first, I'm trying to understand. You bowled to Suresh Raina when he's been at his best, and Narayan troubled most batsmen. Does that now? Do those numbers surprise you, and what probably makes the difference?
Those numbers really surprise me because Narine's a very difficult customer to face. Now, I've only faced him in the nets out at Kolkata. I've faced him in a couple of games. He bamboozles me. I can't even pick him just holding the glove there. So I don't know how Raina does it. Raina's a sensational player against spin, but this is going to be the thing for Kolkata. Do they take the risk and bowl Raina, Chawla against McCallum and Smith? And then when Raina comes in, go to the pace side of things. But then you've got Kartik and Finch, who are also good against spin. So Gambia's going to be really, or he's going to have headaches how to utilise his spin against this formidable Gujarat Lions team. And Raina is the main part of that.
Sorry.
I was waiting for the clock.
Yeah, well, I'd had enough. No, the one thing about Raina is he's probably not a player that he was a couple of seasons back.
Yes.
But those numbers, I mean, he'd have good numbers against most bowlers in the IPL. And to have that against Narine is pretty special. I think they'll need every bit of those runs that they can get of Raina against Kolkata.
So can I just repeat the first part of it? Because he's had such an extraordinary first 6 or 7 years or 8 years in the IPL. Last year, numbers were good, but nothing near the Raina we know, who's almost Bradman-esque in the IPL. Is this a big year for Suresh Raina, for his value, to understand if he's still got it?
No, I think he's still a big player in the T20 format because of how many match-winning innings that he plays. It's just that he's probably not got the big runs that he was getting for Chennai, for Gujarat yet, and that is what he'd be hoping to change.
I was trying to see if they add that to the previous answer as far as the clock was going, but no, we've got exactly the content I wanted out of Ajita and Bradley. Okay, so Suresh Raina v Narine should be a fascinating battle. Let's see if Narine can actually get him out for the first time when they play each other in their first game. And we now must move on to our final match day match point and have a look at our experts playing 11. They've got the job of the coach and the captain or whoever it is that picks playing 11s in the IPL. They can tell me better. We're going to go first for the Gujarat Lions, and Brad Hogg has done some work and picked out 11 for the Gujarat Lions. Remember, I've told you about the absentees in Dwayne Bravo and Ravindra Jadeja. Let's have a look at Hoggy's 11. I wonder who he's picked as the batsman. Okay, so he's not picked Jason Roy, McCallum, Smith and Finch, and Faulkner with both left-arm spinners. Hoggy, 45 seconds to tell me your thoughts on that 11.
Well, McCallum and Smith will be hoping that they bat second tonight and Dew comes in, so that takes a spin factor out of it. But also with Kolkata, Raina, Kartik, Finch will take on the spinners in that middle order and hopefully not expose Faulkner to those spinners and allow Faulkner to come in the end and finish it off. Kishan, the under-19 Indian captain, you've got to play him, giving him an opportunity. You've picked him, Brad Hodge, go out and play him. And Kumar Kulkarni, they've really got it on the likes of Uthappa and Pandey, who are the main batters for, or some of the top batters for Kolkata. And then you've got Jakarta at the end there to fill in for Jadeja, the left arm offie. And
to get rid of Yusuf Pathan.
Get rid of Yusuf Pathan. I think they've got it all covered. And I reckon Gujarat, for me, are the favourites for this tournament this year. I'm
just quickly saying Finch at 5, because we saw Finch bat 3 and push Raina down. You would think that's the best way to go about it for Gujarat Lions, Finch at 5.
It just depends where just depends how Narine's bowling. If he's got early wickets, if Narine's got early wickets, then you would get Raina in there to face Narine and really counteract that.
Okay, fine.
That asset that Kolkata have got.
So you've got it from Brad Hogg as far as the Gujarat Lions go. Ajit Agarkar picks 11 from a team that he once represented. Have a look at who he's gone for, and the absence of Andre Russell, how big is that going to be? No Shakib Al Hasan for this game too, and Roman Powell is still on international duty. So Chris Wokes and Trent Bolt, who was picked up by KKR in the auction in February, also in their team. Sunil Narine in there, and Chris Lynn to bat at 3. He's playing all the spinners. We've spoken of that, so Ajit, you've probably put that in mind. But why don't you tell me your thoughts behind why you've picked this 11? 45 seconds, start now.
Well, I mean, the Indian batting for KKR usually picks itself. I mean, those guys are probably the reason why KKR has done well over the last 3 or 4 seasons since Gambhir took over. Then they can put their overseas bowlers. I picked 3 spinners because of the venue being Rajkot. You know, I mean, okay, yes, Kolkata's had some slow wickets which are spun, but Rajkot essentially, plus they are missing Umesh Yadav. If Umesh Yadav was available, probably would have picked him ahead of one of the spinners. But against these overseas, some of these overseas top order batsmen that Gujarat have, these spinners might be more, or rather have more effect than maybe some of the Indian seamers that they could have played. And the rest of them, Bolt and Wokes, are the available options that they have. So this is quite a formidable team. I think they'd miss Russell and Shakib, but they still have good backups.
Augie?
I like that team. Chris Lynn, he's got to be a floater. So if he's in there in the first 2 overs with an early wicket, that's great. He's got to face pace. He can't be exposed to spin in the middle order. If it's the 6th over, the spinners are coming on, they've got to hold him back till the end. When the quicks come back on, that's where he's most dominant.
Gujarat or Kolkata? Quick prediction.
Already? Okay.
Just the team, the reason at 7:30.
Yeah, Kolkata is the better bowling lineup, so I'm going to go Kolkata.
Bradley?
I hope Kolkata win. Depends who bats first, because the dew's going to be a factor. If Gujarat Lions bat second, that could take the spinning options from Kolkata out of the game, and Gujarat will win that.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you the same question on our 7:30 p.m. show live, when we'll know the toss news and the team news. Gentlemen, thank you very much. So if you do want us to join, if you do want to join us, sorry, for our live show, 7:30 on Facebook as well as ESPNcricinfo. Send your questions and thoughts to Messrs. Hogg and Agarkar, hashtag Ask Hoggy, hashtag Ask Ajit on Twitter or Facebook or wherever you'd like, and hashtag Matchday. Don't forget that. You'll see our show on YouTube as well as the course of this tournament. We'll see you at 7:30 on Facebook and the site. Till then, bye-bye.